Okay, so we're diving deep into Mike Pompeo's weight loss,
Yeah.
former Secretary of State under Trump,
Right.
potential presidential hopeful,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy says he's lost 90 pounds
90.
in 6 months.
Wow.
That's like a whole other person just gone.
It really is, yeah.
And we've got these two completely different takes on it. First, we've got Pompeo's personal account, which almost reads like, the Everyman story. It's from People magazine.
Oh, interesting.
And then you've got fitness experts over in The Guardian kind of scratching their heads like, hold on, is this even possible? They're calling his claims unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So that's what we're looking at today. Is this just incredible self-discipline or...
Or is there something more to this story?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there more to unpack here? And I think one of the things that's interesting is how Pompeo really leans into this, like, simple approach narrative.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
It's like no trainers, no fancy diet.
It's good old-fashioned willpower.
But yeah, just him a home gym, and that's it.
Right, but, it's that lack of detail that's making people wonder.
I know, it does make you go, because he makes it sound pretty straightforward in that People article. He talks about, like, hitting this tipping point, stepping on the scale and seeing almost 300 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, okay, that's it. I got to do something.
Yeah, like a wake-up call almost.
Yeah.
A bit of a health scare, perhaps.
Yeah. And he even throws in that little relatable detail, about swapping out his IHOP pumpkin pancakes.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
For egg whites and turkey bacon.
Classic healthy swap.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
Everyone's had that moment where they're like, okay, I need to make a healthier choice.
Right.
But is that really enough to explain, this massive weight loss in such a short amount of time?
That's the million-dollar question.
I know, because you think about it, and it does make you wonder, especially when you compare his approach to other politicians who've, gone public with their weight loss.
Yeah, like who are we thinking of?
Chris Christie,
Chris Christie. Yeah.
Eric Adams, Mike Huckabee.
Yeah, they were all pretty open, weren't they?
They were all pretty upfront about how they did it, like what they were doing, even about the struggles.
The struggles, for sure.
And Pompeo's just kind of like, well, I just, worked out and ate less.
Right, and it's like, okay, but how much less? What kind of workouts?
Exactly, and that vagueness, it almost feeds into this other thing that the Guardian article was talking about,
Yeah.
which is Pompeo's history.
His reputation
Yeah.
of being,
Let's just say an unreliable narrator
yeah, shall we say?
on certain matters.
Yeah, so that kind of casts a shadow, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you wonder if we're getting the full story.
Yeah, are we getting the whole picture here?
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
But on the flip side, is it possible he's being totally sincere
Oh, absolutely.
about, wanting to get healthy?
Yeah.
Maybe the political stuff is like secondary?
Yeah, maybe he just wants to, live a longer, healthier life.
Right, be there for his family.
Yeah.
For his grandkids, he even mentioned that in the article.
Yeah, that was a good quote. Being around for my grandkids in 2044 and 2054.
Yeah, it tugs at the heartstrings.
It does.
But you also can't ignore the timing, can you?
No.
This whole transformation just happens to coincide with, talk about a possible 2024 presidential run.
It's true.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Very interesting.
So I guess we're acknowledging that there could be this genuine motivation to improve his health,
Right.
mixed with some, savvy image management.
It's politics.
think-
Appearance matters.
Appearance matters, absolutely, especially in politics.
Especially in politics.
But even if we say, okay, he's being completely honest about wanting to be healthier, 90 pounds in 6 months,
That's a lot.
even with really intense workouts, that could have implications.
Oh, absolutely. Rapid weight loss, even when it's intentional, can be really tough on the body.
Really?
And we don't know the specifics of what Pompeo did right, but some studies suggest that such drastic changes can lead to nutritional deficiencies, muscle loss, even gallbladder issues, hormonal imbalances, you name it.
Whoa, that's pretty serious.
Yeah, it can be.
So it sounds like while we applaud anyone who's trying to, improve their health,
Of course.
moderation and sustainability are key.
Absolutely.
And maybe a little transparency wouldn't hurt.
A little transparency goes a long way.
Yeah, because that helps us understand the whole story,
Right.
evaluate, the potential risks and benefits.
For sure.
And maybe even learn something, for our own health journeys.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, this whole situation with Pompeo,
Yeah,
it makes us think about how we view weight loss in general.
it
It's
does.
like we're obsessed with these dramatic transformations, these before and after pictures.
Quick fix.
The quick fix, exactly, even when we know deep down that real lasting change
Takes time.
takes time and effort, consistency.
Consistency, exactly.
But a marathon, not a sprint.
And You know, that quick fix mentality, I think it's got to be especially tempting for someone in Pompeo's position.
I can imagine.
Like, can you imagine the pressure to look a certain way, to project this certain image?
Especially when you're aiming for, the highest office in the land.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you wonder about the psychological impact of all of that, too.
Oh, totally.
Like, is there this unspoken pressure in politics to conform to a certain body standard? Could that be playing a role here?
That's a really interesting point. We talk about societal pressures around weight and appearance.
Right.
But I bet those pressures are like tenfold in the world of politics, where everything you do is
Scrutinized,
analyzed, judged. Yeah.
And think about the message that this sends to the average person who's struggling with their weight.
Oh, yeah.
When they see someone like Pompeo seemingly achieve these drastic results so quickly, it creates these unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
And maybe even feelings of inadequacy.
Totally. And it ties back into, that lack of transparency that we were talking about.
Right, because if we don't have the full picture,
right,
the methods, the potential risks, the struggles.
Oh, no, the whole story.
We don't know the whole story. And it's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing ourselves and,
And feeling bad about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, I'm not doing that.
Why can't I be like that?
Yeah.
And remember, we're only seeing the highlight reel in these media narratives, right?
Oh, for sure.
We don't see the potential downsides, the long hours in the gym, the restrictive diets.
It's a sacrifice.
The sacrifices, exactly the potential for yo-yo dieting or even, disordered eating patterns.
Yeah.
It's so important to remember that everybody's journey is different.
Totally.
And what works for one person might not work for another.
100%.
And, I keep thinking back to that quote from that fitness expert in The Guardian.
Yeah.
The one who called Pompeo's rate of weight loss unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's not just about the speed.
Yeah.
It's the lack of context. Like, what kind of exercise was he doing?
What was he eating?
Was there any medical intervention involved? We just don't know.
Right.
And without those details, it's tough to say, was this approach healthy? Was it sustainable? Is it even replicable?
Right. Would it work for the average person?
Yeah. And remember, we're not just talking about physical health here, right?
Right.
Mental and emotional well-being are just as important.
Absolutely.
And those aspects often get overlooked in these triumph over weight loss stories.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about those mental and emotional aspects. We've talked about the pressure to look a certain way, but what about that internal pressure? The self-criticism, the potential for body image issues that can arise from these dramatic transformations.
That's huge. And that's something that we need to consider.
For sure.
Even if someone is losing weight for the, quote unquote, right reasons, the process itself can be emotionally challenging. There's so much focus on the external, like the number on the scale, the size of your clothes.
Yeah.
But what about those internal shifts that need to happen?
Right.
The changes in mindset, the self-acceptance, developing a healthy relationship with food and with your body image.
These are great questions.
Yeah.
And these are questions that we all need to be asking ourselves.
For sure.
Regardless of whether we're, public figures like Mike Pompeo or just everyday people.
Just trying to navigate the world.
Trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
The complexities of weight and health.
It's complicated.
It really is.
And it brings us back to that bigger question.
Yeah.
What does all of this tell us about our societal obsession with weight loss?
Yeah, especially with this rapid weight loss.
Yeah. Why are we so captivated by these dramatic transformations?
Like, what are we really buying into here?
Yeah, what messages are we internalizing?
Right.
And what are the potential consequences?
For
our individual well-being and even for our collective well-being.
I think you're right. I think Pompeo's story with all of its layers and ambiguities.
It's a messy story.
It's a messy story.
Yeah.
I think it gives us this valuable opportunity to really explore these questions.
To dig a little deeper.
Yeah, to dig deeper, for sure.
Yeah, it's like we're always looking for that magic bullet, that quick fix.
Right. Even when we know it's probably not realistic.
Or sustainable.
Not sustainable, exactly. And, for someone like Pompeo in his position, that quick fix mentality, I bet it's got to be super tempting.
Oh, totally. The pressure to look a certain way, to project a certain image.
Especially when you're thinking about running for president, like the highest office in the land.
And it really makes you think about the psychological impact, too.
Yeah.
Is there this unspoken pressure in politics to fit a certain mold?
Of a certain body type.
Yeah. Could that be part of this whole story.
That's a really interesting point. We talk about the pressures everyone feels about weight and appearance.
Right, like in society in general.
But in politics, it's got to be so much worse.
Oh, I bet 10 times worse.
Because everything you do is under a microscope.
Everything you do is scrutinized, analyzed.
And it makes you think about the message this sends to just the average person.
Yeah.
Who's, maybe struggling with their weight.
Right, because they see someone like Pompeo who's lost all this weight so quick.
And it looks so easy.
Right, and they think, why can't I do that?
Exactly, and it sets up these unrealistic expectations.
And it can make people feel bad about themselves.
Totally, like, oh, I'm not doing enough.
Exactly, and remember, we're only seeing the good parts, the before and after photo.
A highlight reel.
The highlight reel.
Right.
We don't see what happens behind the scenes.
The struggles.
The sacrifices, the restrictive diets, the long hours at the gym.
Right, and maybe he's even yo-yo dieting or something. We don't know.
We don't know, and it's so important to remember everyone's different. What works for one person might not work for someone else.
100%. And I keep thinking back to that quote from The Guardian.
The fitness expert.
Yeah, where he says, Pompeo's rate of weight loss is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And it's not just about how fast it happened. It's the lack of detail.
Like, what was he actually doing?
Yeah, what kind of workouts was it every day? Was he eating certain foods?
Was there medical intervention involved? Did he have surgery?
Right, we just don't know.
We just don't know. And without those details, it's hard to say if this approach was healthy, sustainable, even replicable.
Yeah, would it work for the average person who's trying to lose weight?
Exactly. And remember, we're not just talking about physical health here.
Right. There's more to it than that.
Mental and emotional well-being are just as important.
Absolutely.
And, those aspects often get overlooked in these triumphant weight loss stories.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Let's shift gears and talk about the mental and emotional side of this. We've talked about the pressure to look a certain way.
Right, like external pressure.
Well, what about internal pressure?
Yeah.
Like the self-criticism, the potential for body image issues.
That can come along with these big changes.
That's something we really need to think about.
Because even if you're losing weight for what you think are the right reasons,
Yeah,
the process can be really hard emotionally.
I bet.
There's so much focus on how you look, the number on the scale, the size of your clothes.
Right?
But what about the changes that need to happen on the inside?
Like mentally.
Yeah, like your mindset, self-acceptance, having a good relationship with food, with your body.
That's a great point.
We need to be asking ourselves those questions.
Whether you're Mike Pompeo,
Or just a regular person.
trying to figure out how to be healthy.
It's not easy.
No, it's not.
And it all comes back to this bigger question. What does this whole thing tell us about how obsessed we are with weight loss?
As a society.
As a society, especially with rapid weight loss.
Yeah. Why are we so drawn to these before and afters?
Like, what are we really buying into?
What are the messages we're internalizing?
What are the potential consequences for us as individuals and as a society?
I think Pompeo's story really gives us a chance to look at those questions.
Even though it's messy and complicated,
Yeah, with all the layers and the unanswered questions.
it makes us think.
It really does. And it feels like we're just surrounded by these weight loss stories.
Everywhere you look.
And they rarely give you the full picture.
Right, it's all about the transformation.
Yeah, and it's easy to get swept up in that,
Excitement of it all.
Yeah, without really thinking about, what might be going on behind the scenes.
And we need to remember that losing weight doesn't automatically mean someone is healthier.
So true. It's about so much more than just the number on the scale.
It really is.
It's about taking care of your body.
Nourishing yourself.
Yeah, eating well, moving in ways that you enjoy.
Feeling good in your body.
Absolutely, and, making those changes that you can stick with.
For the long haul.
Yeah, not just some crash diet for a photo op or,
A political
a
campaign.
political campaign, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's funny, because we started this whole conversation with Mike Pompeo,
Yeah.
who's known for
Having strong opinions.
not always being the most,
Forthcoming.
forthcoming with information.
Right.
And yet here he is sparking this conversation
I know, it's ironic, isn't it?
about transparency and realistic expectations.
When it comes to health and weight loss,
I mean, maybe it's his way of showing a different side of himself.
a more vulnerable side.
Yeah, or maybe it's all calculated.
They are the plan.
Who knows? But regardless of his reasons,
It's definitely got people talking.
it has, and it makes you wonder, could this be a turning point?
A shift in the conversation.
Yeah, where we start to demand more honesty from public figures.
Especially when they're sharing their health journeys.
Because wouldn't it be refreshing
So refreshing.
to hear a politician say, you know what, I struggled with my weight. I tried different things. Some worked, some didn't. It wasn't easy, and it took time.
That would be amazing.
That would be so powerful.
Do you hear that realness?
Yeah, and it would help us all focus on those lifestyle changes that actually make a difference.
In the long run.
Exactly. Not the quick fixes and the dramatic transformations.
The sustainable stuff.
The stuff that actually matters for our health and well-being.
And it could open up space for more honest conversations.
How about the challenges?
The setbacks, the ups and downs.
The whole journey.
Because it's not always easy.
Not at all. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Mike Pompeo's weight loss, I want to leave you with this thought.
Let's not just focus on the headlines and the before and after photos.
Right.
Let's dig deeper. Let's ask questions. Let's demand more transparency.
And let's be kind to ourselves.
To each other.
As we figure out our own paths to health and well-being.
It's a journey for all of us.
That's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for listening. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.